My name is Sonia, and I have been honored to be a part of Dr. Pillai's organization for over 20 years. And I realize that many people joining on this call today are our friends and family. You've traveled with us to India, to Egypt, to Israel, or you've attended a seminar with Dr. Pillai. And it's a shame that we can't see you on camera, but we know you're there, and we're very happy to arrange this time with Dr. Pillai for you. As many of you are also in isolation and quarantine. Dr. Pillai is also in isolation in California, as is most of our team, but I want to assure you that we're all well and healthy, and we're all in this together. There is no person who is unaffected by this pandemic, and by joining together, each of us becomes part of the solution. Now, as Dr. Pillai said in his prior video, that it's only when we face the fear of death do we begin to value our life. And we have had many questions coming in from you for Dr. Pillai, which we organized into 3 categories. And those 3 categories from all the questions you've submitted have been mostly around what's been happening in the media, the news and politics, around health and both emotional and physical well-being, and also spiritually, what does this mean? How can we use this time and help humanity in some way? So we've asked 3 of Dr. Pillai's organizational leaders to serve as panelists for this discussion. And they've assembled the top questions that in each of these areas that they're going to be asking Dr. Pillai. And I'd like to introduce all of our panelists to you first before we jump right in. So we have Stacy Lawson there in the pink color. She is an accomplished entrepreneur, a leader in the alternative energy space in California, and is also quite a social and political activist. And she will be leading our panel on the news and media and how our politicians globally are handling this pandemic. We also have Dr. Roger Gautam. Dr. Gautam is joining us from Australia. It's quite late, so we appreciate his time. He's front and center to this pandemic, and he has also served in a leadership role in Dr. Pillai's organization to lead new novel therapies that will help better humanity. And finally, probably doesn't need an introduction because you all are very familiar with her, is Gina Guerrieri. And Gina has been leading Pillai Center for the last decade. And I'd be happy to announce here that beyond heading Pillai Center, she's also been promoted to our vice president and will be taking on a more leadership role for us. So to get started, I'd like to invite Stacy, if you would, to share your questions on news and politics with Dr. Pillai.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, Dr. Pillai, and thank you so much for doing this webcast. There have been a lot of political and news commentary about how to address the coronavirus, and I know we've all been inundated by a lot of that news. So one of the questions is around the current political debate as to how best address coronavirus. And there seems to be 2 positions being put out there in the media. One is to mandate a widespread shutdown to slow the virus, but potentially risk joblessness and financial vulnerability for the 38 million Americans living in poverty and the 55 million without emergency savings, or alternatively to attempt to self-isolate high-risk populations and allowing the young to work and keep the economy going. The question I have for you is this the right debate to be having, or is there some other way that our politicians should be thinking about addressing the coronavirus?
When you talk about the news media and the TV, you have Fox Channel, you know what to expect from them. You have CNN, you know what to expect from them. And you have MSNBC, you know what to expect from them, because they are all colored according to what they want, what is their agenda behind. And that's, so you cannot have any agreement on that, except that how many people died and how it is being presented is very important. The one thing that I am really unhappy about is the fear that has been created in the people who listen to it, whether it is NBC or whether it is CNN. Fox doesn't create as much fear as other channels are. That doesn't mean that I support Fox News or I'm a Republican. No, I have nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. But what concerns me is the fear that has been created perpetually. It's going on every minute, and people are, have no life at all, except to fear what is going to happen to me. The stock market fell. And then they say it's very difficult to even recover in a reasonable time. And that's one thing. People lost a lot of jobs. All these things happen because of one little thing, that is fear. Fear was responsible for creating the collapse of the stock market. And fear has driven people to create this negative reality. So what the news media should be doing is that to promote about what is life and what is death. And after all, it's not that death is not taking place around us. So once a woman went to the Buddha and told that my son died, you have to bring him back to life. The Buddha said, okay, I will do that, provided you can go and get some mustard seeds. But there is a condition. You should not get this mustard seed from a house. You should get it from a house where no death has occurred. So she goes and then talks to people. Oh, I can give you mustard seed, but but my brother died, or my sister died, or my child died. So what this story says is death is a reality. And why do we have personally so much fear about death? And the news media is predicting this. So there's only one problem, is that whatever is the state of mind you have, and you are going to create that reality, you are overwhelmingly afraid of death, and that you are going to create that reality. So the news media, from morning till evening, it's unbelievable. You just go and then turn on the TV at 2 in the morning, they talk about this. Okay. So they should stop doing this. I'll give you one example. Just before I came here, I was watching 2 medical doctors. And both of them are celebrities. One is a Harvard guy, and another woman is on the task force of the White House. And then this reporter was asking a question. So we don't have enough ventilators. And this task force woman is saying that the doctor is saying that you know, now that we don't know. We don't know what will be our needs. But the other doctor from Harvard, he said, no, uh, we are definitely in shortage of ventilators. And then the reporter was trying to, fault someone, but they seem to be in good understanding. So when the Harvard professor came and he said, she's not wrong. I have great respect for her. It depends upon where we get the data from. I got a data from some other source. Okay. So everything is an interpretation because these people are well educated, they can understand, and then not become politically swayed one way or the other. It depends upon where we get the data and then how we predict and on what basis we are going to predict. All these things are necessary. So journalism is something to play on your emotions, because most people are not very, analytical, to say the least. They just go by emotions too. So there are audience who will watch Fox channel, Fox TV, versus people who listen to the CNN. So they both have their agendas. One wants to destroy Trump, the other wants to promote Trump. So you don't want to go by any of these things. That's what my advice to you. But what I want to teach is, I'm sure that people who are listening to me are people who are following me. One thing is to realize what I just started talking about, death. Death is a reality. It's going to happen to everyone unless you are at a very high level, like a Tamil Siddha, who want to turn their body into light. And that is not going to be the reality for 99.99999% of the people. So I won't talk about that. Although I would say that is a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. But then I'm here to talk about the possibility for most of the people. So what you have to do is you should not even think one negative thought. It's all going to be fine. It will be fine. So that's one of the things that I like about Trump, for which he was criticized. He said that this is like a flu and it is going to go away. The media presented that he is downplaying it and he has no knowledge about it. Not that he doesn't have knowledge about it. Anybody would have knowledge about it. But the one thing that I would interpret it, he doesn't want to create the fear in people. And what are you going to get out of the fear? Even the worst happens. It's not going to be, even if you ask people, how many people are going to die? And somebody was telling me that some 5 million people die out of heart attack. See, you don't, first of all, even people misrepresent the facts and creating fear. And what is the outcome? 4 million, nearly 4 million people they have lost their jobs. Stock market has gone down. And what is the state of mind of the people? In fear, in total fear. And if you continue like this and not going to, go work, then you are going to ruminate over this over and over again. There is a saying in Sanskrit, you become as you think. Yad bhavam tat bhavati. So you are thinking about day in and day about this pandemic. That's what is needed now. What is needed now is just to think very fruitful thoughts, distract yourself, and then, not by watching movies. Watching movies are much better than, listening to negative things. So news media has a responsibility not to put fear, because they have to protect the economy and protect the psychology of the people. And any news item that is going to create fear in the name of presenting the fact and preparing them for the worst, why don't you prepare for the best? The worst, if the worst is going to happen, it's going to happen anyway, because that is another reality. But which reality are you going to focus on? And that is the most important thing. There is only one thing that people have to understand, that is your mind, your thought process. How many thoughts, you think in a minute? Like, I think you have about 35 thoughts. That's the statistics. Out of the 35 thoughts, how many of them are fearful thoughts? At this point, just you have to look at that. And if a number of people, all of America, all of the world now, are involved in thinking fearful thoughts, it's going to create fear, and it is going to create a very bad reality. So that is what I would want to say about the news media and the reality itself. The reality is subject to your thought process, a collective thought process. You go to a bad neighborhood. Why it's bad? Because people there subscribe to those thought patterns. You go to a good neighborhood. Why is it a good neighborhood? Because people living in that neighborhood are having, good thoughts. So thoughts are everything. So if everybody becomes so careful about what they are thinking or what they are speaking and what impact it is creating on others, then we can create a beautiful world. But then in schools and colleges, we don't do that. Okay, I'm not even talking about God. Do they talk about God? Do they ask the question? Any news media, the Fox sometimes does, but CNN or MSNBC or other news media, they don't want to bring in God. Why God is doing this? Because to believe God is not, sophisticated. If you are not, unless you are an evangelist or going to church or superstitious. These are the things. The scientists subscribe to that also. Okay, that's briefly, I just go on, and I have this
Thank you,
habit,
Dr. Pillai.
which I have to change.
Thank you. I'd like to follow on with a question regarding your comments about how our fear flavors our reality.
What's
And
that?
the current statistics presented by the media indicate that the infection curve is still going up.
Well,
how do you see this?
yeah, that even the curve is subjected to the projection or a reality created by one. See, for instance, we are not even up to date with our sciences or with our mathematics. Einstein changed the concepts that was pre-existing, Newton's concepts, as time. Time is absolute. Space is contained. Newton is a great scientist. Einstein said, no, time is relative. It's not absolute. Space is relative. So now Einstein has been thrown out by the quantum physicists. So now the quantum physicists say that, everything is in a flux, non-locality. theory of uncertainty, Heisenberg's theory. Are we living the modern science, or are we living or subscribing to the older science? Somebody thought about a curve. If collectively all of the people just discard all these belief systems, it's also belief systems. Even science is a belief system. And then we have given so much credence to this. So if all of the people can join together and then say we are going to deny that, then it will be a different reality. Norman Cousins developed the science of psychoneuroimmunology for the at UCLA Medical School, and he worked with the doctors whose families, had to deal with cancer, and he said, "Come, head first." That's the book he wrote, The Biology of Hope. When you think that this is how it is going to change. And he just did a lot of research with 500 people taking a placebo, because they were told that you are going to have, these are cancer patients, you are going to have lose your hair. Cancer chemo was not administered, only a placebo was administered. And then 35% of the people lost their hair. That is how powerful is our mind. This is very concrete evidence, head first. So we should create a new culture. And in that culture, we should understand the power of our mind, the mind over matter, okay? And not give credence to whatever is being told. So that is what I would like the world to evolve into. Just not accept anybody's model. And at least in a situation like this, as I told you, 35 thoughts in a minute, and how many thoughts are centered on fear? How many thoughts are centered on there are no ventilators? Why are you thinking about ventilators? It is a reality which we have created because we have become just victims to science and rationality, and not to the new science, not to spring theory, which is the modern theory, which says that nothing is, certain. Einstein had a problem. He said, no. He argued with Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore was was also a Nobel laureate. And he said, whatever I am saying, I have no problem, Einstein said, accepting that the world is an illusion, but it is a persistent illusion. Why is a persistent illusion? Because of your mind. Okay. And what is needed, to change your reality. If you're poor, you have created this reality. You are rich, you have created that reality. Poverty and prosperity are states of mind created by people. Similarly, we have created tremendous amount of fear, and other people become victim to that. I'll stop it here because there are other people, so I'm not planning to start for a long.
Thank you, Dr. Pillai. I love the notion of focusing on our collective and individual consciousness, the power of our consciousness during this time. So I had just one last question regarding our politics and media, and that's related to what our politicians and government officials and world leaders should really be learning at this time. Are they following the principles you're talking about? What are the right things for them to be focusing on as they grapple with how to lead us through this crisis?
The politicians are not going to learn anything because they are more self-centered. Okay, even if they are honest, let them ask themselves, are they worried about the virus? No. They're worried about, who is going to win, who is going to get the power. Okay. And that's what they are all thinking about. They have no concern whatsoever about this. This is only if they have it, it's marginal. But all that they are thinking about is how can I get power? What kind of a politics I can play, how this coronavirus can be used. So these politicians are not going to help this world unless they become more self-reflective, which is not going to happen. So we need this, something has to happen. And I don't know if that will happen during our lifetime. So I'm not looking forward for politicians to change and change the world. They will remain the same. These are, Democrat is one tribe, the other, the Republicans is another tribe, tribal rivalry. And the truth is defined by both tribes in the way they want it to be. And that's what it is. And that's why Ross Perot tried to get a third party, but he failed, and everybody will fail also. So that's why other people who are trying to enter into the politics to create a third party, they are backing out because they just tested it. If they could enter politics, and then they found out it's not going to work. So we can go to the other topic now, other
I'd like
category.
to invite Dr. Gautam. Dr. Pillai, many people have questions on health and well-being. And I'd like to invite Dr. Gautam to ask those questions of what he's seen in the field. And he has some questions for you.
Thank you, Sonia. Good morning, Dr. Pillai. With the current challenging situation, what steps should people do to positively influence our psychological and physical well-being? You mentioned about psychoneuroimmunology and how positive thoughts would play a significant role. So it would be very helpful for people around the world if you could guide us. What steps should one do in this current situation, please?
Yeah, I taught a mantra a few days ago to diffuse the disease. The disease, everything in this world, matter is created by sound waves. And mind is also sound waves. So you have to be very, very careful of how you use the sound waves. And this is the philosophy behind mantras. Don't be, immediately judgmental that I'm here to promote mantras because I happen to be a Hindu and coming from India. This is the same philosophy. This philosophy is in the Egyptian religion. It is also in Christianity, in Judaism. In Judaism, sound waves were taught to Abraham by God himself. You can use these sounds and create a goat, and with this goat, you can sacrifice this goat to me. Okay, so with sound waves, you can create a goat. And then again in the Old Testament, in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God created everything with the Word. And the modern example of that is Roral Roberts. I have talked about him. I have mentioned about him in many of my talks. He had no money, and but God told him, go create a university for me. He spoke to his wife, give me the money that we saved up for our children's education. Why? Because God wanted me to create a university with this created a university for God. And then she gladly gave the money. That money was very little money. He could not create an university with that. He said, how are you going to create a university with this money? No, not with this money. I am going to create these universities just as God created this world with His Word. And for 3 months, he was on his knees reading the Bible. And he did create a very beautiful university. So what is needed is to understand the power of the scriptures, whether it is the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or whatever, is your religious scripture. And they carry the sounds. That's why I created the science of phonemic intelligence. The phonemes can change your thought patterns, your intelligence, your health, your reality. Everything is a reflection of what you think. And what you think is dependent on the sound waves that you use for your thought patterns, because the thought is only a combination or joining together a few phonemes, and those phonemes create the reality. And we are not conscious of what we speak. There is a gap, a split between what we think and what we speak and what we mean. All these things are, this is not my idea, this is Patanjali says about 2,000 years or 4,000 years ago. There is a disconnect between these things. So we have to create a new educational system. And it is my intention that phonemic intelligence will evolve into a science. It's not going to happen, in another, 10 years or 20 years. It will take a long time unless there is something happens to make us go back and understand the meaning of, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God. God said, let there be light. You can speak everything and create. You can speak everything and create. And if you go on saying this over and over and over again, you will create that. Okay, I used to give this, I just remember some time ago when there was this impeachment process for Trump. He was saying there is no collusion, there is no obstruction of justice. That was his mantra. No matter where he went, he chanted this mantra, and he created that reality. Not that I support him in certain respects, because he's very positive, and he created a wonderful economy, and then it collapsed. But even now he says, I can create a better economy than this in a very short period of time. Yeah. Why is he able to think like that? Because he had been in his previous lifetimes emperor. So I want, don't think that I'm trying to promote Trump here. I'm promoting a consciousness, a particular consciousness of a particular person, because right now this teaching is needed. I'm unemployed. The 4 million people are saying, I'm not going to get my check now. And what are you going to do with this $1,000 check that, you can be, everybody can be affluent, provided affluent, not only affluent, but also very healthy too. provided you know how to manipulate the intelligence. And what is intelligence? Jnana adhishtanam matrukaha. Intelligence is in the sounds, and sounds is in the speech, and speech is dependent on these phonemes. Okay, that's one is understanding phonemes is everything. And this is really the teaching of the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. Every teaching, if you go back, this is what they are all teaching. So if you want a better health, go to the sounds. If you want money, go to the sounds. That's why I created this sound stream Rizi. Just go and look at how many people have used and benefited it. I didn't even want to do that because I expected more people to get, a lot more wealthier than they are now using the sound waves. But then that's why I had a love-hate relationship with the sound. But later on, I decided, no, because Jayarada was responsible. She said, you have become, she came and told me, you became negative. That's why you are not teaching that. I thought about it. Maybe she said she was right. Then I started, not that I don't go negative, I do too. But negative in a very different way than you are negative. And then I said, well, I'll do that. I'll come back to it. Okay. And yeah. And then, yeah. Any other question you have?
Yes, Dr. Pillai, you just mentioned about how, consistently using positive sounds and positive vibration has an influence in our system. Are we right in our thinking? Like consistently you're using a mantra or a sound, a positive action and positive thought. You create, if we may call, even a protein or a positive I wouldn't call a virus, a positive matter within our brain and within our system, so that we have we impact our body system very significantly. Because the reason why I'm putting it like that, right now everyone is thinking virus is negative, it is going to ruin our world. So that is where, if we think like this constantly, what is your perspective about having a positive matter within us using these sound waves?
These sounds are the building blocks of the mind or consciousness as well as matter. There is nothing without the sounds. Okay. You can, even the Planck, Max Planck's Planck has a sound behind it. So when you keep on saying this sound, you are filled with the sound, and that sound can change your mind, can change your body, can change the chemicals, can change your neurotransmitters, can change everything. We have enough research to prove that how sounds can change even your DNA. And your mind is a gross reality. When it can change your DNA, then it can change everything. So if you have positive sounds, say like a sound ah, you don't do anything but just keep on saying the sound ah for 10 hours, 12 hours. Now start with 1 hour and 1 hour time. And then you will see that within a very short period of time, without your knowing, without your learning anything, your mind changes. That is the way you can change your body, change the diseases. And the analytical mind is one thing, because the analytical mind is subjected to a lot of or let me put it this way. The analytical mind can work very differently depending on what you want to argue. For instance, there is the virus. Is the virus bad at all? I don't look at it that way. There is a purpose of, for the virus to shake us into a different reality. That's one way of understanding. The way I understand the virus is, oh my God, I wanted to know what this virus is about, And the virus is invisible, it is, and is trying to enter into your cell. And there is the T cells coming and put up a fight. And then I get to understand the immune system, the T cells and the B cells. And then, all these things I would not have been interested in unless I'm a medical professional or a scientist. But this made me to go and look at the structure of the virus. And then I found out what is the chemical substance that builds this virus. It's just sugar, pure sugar, monosaccharide. So I had to do some research in order to find out that. And I don't want to go into that because I'm just also involved in trying to understand this virus more. And remember, this virus is not all that bad. There is virus is used for the disease by scientists, pharmacists nowadays who are working on new medicine. They use virus to deliver their medicine to the body too. So if our understanding is very limited, then we structure our knowledge base based on the limited understanding. But all understanding is, in one level, is misunderstanding. That's why Shiva says in the Shiva Sutra, knowledge is the beginning of ignorance. Yeah, he implies that when he says, Jnana Tishtanam Matrakaha. The sounds create this intelligence, but that intelligence is also, there are two types. One is an intelligence which is gross intelligence, and then there is a subtle intelligence also. And there are different levels of intelligence, based on different levels of consciousness you have. So we have to go and understand, first of all, that all understanding we have is limited. And I gave the example of Newton and Einstein and quantum physicists. And what else is going, in the future, there will be other people who are going to find, other things. So what we have to understand, one thing, the bottom line is, we have to evolve. We have to evolve. We have to realize that we are just not the body. There are 43 trillion cells in the body, and they are all alive. Why do you think that, you are alive and, and you are dead, when the body is dead? There are 43 trillion cells in the body, and they are all alive. And if you can get into the cells and understand the cell and how they function, there will be a tremendous amount of sharpening of your intelligence. So I want to model our educational system wherein I would want to teach my granddaughter about virus, how you touch this surface and this virus is, trying to get into your body. And then if you put it on your nose, this is what is getting into your body. And why are we not teaching that? We should be. All our educational system is somebody started it many, 50 years ago, 75 years ago. We have not changed it. Now, at least now we should teach these kids, 3, 4 years old, if you touch this and then touch your nose or eyes or mouth, the virus is going to, what is virus? Then you are going to learn a lot. We have to, the more you go deep into atomic structures, subatomic structures, quarks and Plancks, your intelligence becomes unlimited. From, all day long, if you just focus on studying, the invisible structures, which are the minute of the minutest, then your intelligence will be, you will be, then you will understand what quantum physics says, that you are non-local. You are not only, I'm not only sitting in San Diego and Fallbrook here, I'm everywhere. But what makes me to, identify myself as being in San Diego is the body and the mind. And if I can really, move my consciousness to the pituitary and the pineal gland, then there will be another reality that will be available to us. So our educational system has to change. That's the bottom line. So that's enough for
Thank you,
Dr. Pillai.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Gautam, for those questions. Now, Gina, following up on that spiritual question, Dr. Pillai, I think Gina has a lot of questions from the community regarding the spiritual practices and rituals that we can enact during this time. So I'll turn that over to Gina.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Pillai, for being here. Your students around the world are really grasping on to all of the videos you've been putting out. And we thank you so much. You've come out of your silent retreat in order to be here for your people, your community at a time of need. People are feeling fear. Just like you said, it is the collective consciousness right now in the media, and psychically, as spiritual people, we're feeling all of that.
Yeah.
Is there a particular technique, mantra, thought that we should be thinking to offset that we're actually oracally getting all of this coming at us, and what we can do to protect ourselves and also be the change that you were talking about, how our collective consciousness could then change how everyone else is feeling and thinking if enough of us are shifting into that positive mode?
There are a couple of things. One, you can use the sounds, and I taught a a mantra for coronavirus. Coronavirus, nashi mashi. Go on changing that. There is a doctor who in Germany, who is a student of mine, and she's seeing coronavirus people, and then she's kind of overwhelmed with dealing with these people. But then when she started chanting it, her consciousness changed, and then she was no more depressed. So this is for a physician who was, and for, if you're all going to chant this, then you can defeat it. Okay, there are a lot of research now that how sound waves can are powerful even to break a mountain. It can break a mountain. And there is at least one research, they were, I remember that a wine cork was able to, break a huge iron rod because it went constantly hitting it, and then the army marching with their boots, and then they broke a bridge. All these researches are available, and then so they can use this sound, coronavirus nashi mashi, 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 coronavirus nashi mashi. then that sound will deter this virus from doing its devastating job, creating this disease. So go on changing that you don't have to worry about the philosophy behind it. Why nashi, what is nashi, and how the sound na works, how the sound she works, how the sound ma works, or the she. No, don't worry about all these things. Just go on chanting it over and over and over and over and over again. Then you will, you will see that your consciousness changes. Not only consciousness changes, you will also help purify the environment and also influence the people around you not to be, fearful, and then more than that, you will actually be killing the virus.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
That's one thing. And then there's another thing is you can use archetypes. An archetype is a being who is the collective property of all cultures, modern, pre-modern, ancient cultures also. These archetypes are like, I'll give you an example of an archetype. Hercules is an archetype. Or Hanuman is an archetype. Narasimha is an archetype. And these are very powerful, imageries. Narasimha is a person with a lion's head and a human body. And if you go on looking at these images and also chanting the names of Narasimha, 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 or Hanuman, 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 I am Hanuman. Or just even imagine that you are Hanuman. Just imagine that you are Narasimha. Imagine that you are Hercules. And imagine you are Samson, And what the principle is the same. You become as you think. That's why you have to be very careful about what do you think. If you're fearful, I'm going to get the coronavirus. You will get, definitely, you become vulnerable. No, I'm not going to get it, And I can understand this news media will never promote this because that is not the truth. The news media will say, no, I was just reading by the end of October, there were 150 people will be dying in California every day. Oh my God. I said, why can't you have some other data that, I just, when I read that, my God, I don't want to read it anymore. So we are anticipating that we are going to need 30,000 ventilators for New York alone. And now that everybody is saying that Michigan is going to be, as bad as New York or even worse. So we should stop doing all these things. We do not know the power of consciousness. You don't know the power of human mind. So instead of teaching that, we are saying Chicago is going to follow the New York model. So there's however many people are dying here, and those are the people who are going to be dying. These are the predictions. This is the curve, So collectively, we are subscribing to a bad model in the name of science and logic. Okay. And you don't want to be that way. Collectively, the people are going to be like this, but at least for my students who follow me, I'll tell you, there is only one truth, and that is you become what you think. So be careful about what you think. If you go on thinking positive thoughts, unlimited thoughts, whether about health or your intelligence or your money, you will manifest that. And that's how powerful we are. Everyone is powerful. There is no one who is, God has created without any power. He has created everybody in his own image. That's the most important thing. Now, the one final thing that I want to tell you, just before I came here, I also recommend people watching a program on March 27th. It was a joint program by Benny Hinn and there is a pastor from South Africa, Chris. They attracted a prayer group online, and there are 2 billion people all over the world watched it. 2 billion. They said it became 2.5 billion. They were expecting about 3 billion people. And all that they talked about was about prayer. Prayer and faith. But one thing that they were not talking about is the inability of the 21st century as a civilization. We are living in the 21st century. Is inability to have faith. We can believe somewhat, not totally. But faith is very, very difficult for us, or can't even exist. Why? Because of science, logic, technology. So if you ask people to go and pray, they will pray, and then without any faith. And it will be a ritual without any meaning. So can you really believe in anything? Have faith in anything 100%? No. What can you do? Phonemic intelligence will do. Phonemic intelligence has the power to go and change the way you think. The way you think. And it will also lead you to faith, because faith, and you all know my definition of faith. Faith is utter positivity. 100% I believe in it. And this is what I want the reality to be. But if I just say I want 30,000, ventilators for New York alone, so we anticipate that many people are going to go sick, and then they will be on ventilator. And the worst thing is, we also anticipate these people are going to occupy the ventilator for 30 days. So, and then after the 30th day, he is going to die. So that is the statistics. The statistics, when I heard the statistics, oh my God. So you hook up somebody to a ventilator, and he is going to occupy that ventilator anyway between 20 to 30 days. And after 30th day, he dies. And then, what is this information going to do for you? And then you have to calculate according to that. You have to expect these people are going to have ventilator for 30 days. So if you calculate, and then some statistician comes and gives you, so you need 30,000 ventilators. We need a tremendous amount of money to buy 30 just for one New York alone. Then you replicate it to all these places. But what about a country like India? They have, there are many hospitals in India. They have not even seen a ventilator. There are 1.3 billion people there. But God will find a way. because they have a different understanding of reality because of their spiritual lineage. And here our lineage is completely based on rationality, science, and beyond our life, there is no reality. Beyond this body, beyond this mind, there is no reality. So this has to change. And I'm hopeful that it will change, but it is taking time. That I don't want to believe that way. You know, I want to create a community. See, when these people were able to create 2 billion people to listen to that message, which is only Jesus, that's another problem. Only Jesus can help you is, tricky. And anything that, you can believe, you can have faith in any God. All religions have access to the divine. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I think I exceeded my time.
Dr.
You have another question?
Yeah, one last question, if you would, please. You mentioned the collective consciousness. I feel like right now is a huge opportunity for everyone to be making a leap in their spiritual progress and for humanity to actually be taking advantage of this time. Do you feel like this is a transition point into a new era? Is this God's plan? Is this an awakening for humanity?
Yeah. See, what has to happen? That's a good question. What has to happen is there should be a merger of faith and science. We cannot instill faith in people because our own consciousness will rebel against it. Because our consciousness has been groomed by rationality, by logic, by science, by technology. And that from especially people living in the West. And for them, if you tell them, go and have faith in Jesus or Buddha or Shiva or anyone, it's not going to happen. So you should find in some way to interpret faith in terms of science. And they are not antithetical after all. After all, religion is a great science. Religion is a better science. And Einstein had a deep insight into it. And he said, where science ends, there religion begins. And he also made a statement, very, very profound statement, that where imagination is better than intellect. So intellect is logic, intellect is science, intellect is technology, whereas imagination is very creative. It goes beyond logic. It is not bound by logic. So can we create that reality where we can explain religion in terms of quantum physics, explain faith in terms of particle physics, or Heisenberg's theory of uncertainty. So if you really believe in Heisenberg's theory of uncertainty, you won't say that we need the ventilator for this man for 30 days. Or we need these 30,000 ventilators. Come on, we got to live, the modern science. The modern science says that, it proves the Eastern philosophy that you see what you want to see. That is, so the faith is something in which, there is no limitation. It's positivity. Jesus said that if you have faith, you can move mountains. You can move mountains. So faith has to be understood in terms of science and technology and logic. And then in Shiva Sutra, they say that faith is not illogical, it's translogical. It is vitarka atmanyanam. It is soul's intelligence, it's not the mind's intelligence. So when you have the soul intelligence, then there is no logic, there is no limitation, there is no 30 days or somebody occupying a ventilator. You will see that in your own life. When you subscribe to this ultimate reality, and this ultimate reality is, when you have a scientific understanding of faith. Yes, there are so many options available simultaneously. Why do you want to cling on to this option?
So it's an emergency of faith, essentially.
Yeah, the emergency of faith should be understood. They say, dedicate your life to Jesus. Accept Him as a savior. Many people, even Christians, find it difficult to do that. But when you understand faith as utter positivity, as quantum physics, then there is no problem. Or when you understand virus is, yes, coronavirus is doing these things, and then but the virus can also be used as a medicine. The medicine can be carried through through the virus to go into areas where they need to go, because the more the smaller they are, the better is the reach of this medicine. That's why the small molecules are more valuable than the large molecules. And now we have to create medicine based on isotopes and subatomic particles. So understanding subatomic particles and the power within these particles, and that is, if you can engage in thinking of subatomic particles, years ago when the boson research was going on, I created a mantra. What is that mantra? On boson.
Ohm Higgs boson.
Huh?
Ohm Higgs boson.
Huh? Boson Adi Shivaya Namaha, right? Om Higgs boson Adi Shivaya Namaha. It was very strange that I was in India. This lady was practicing that, and it was in a Ganesha temple. She said, she came to me, it's an Indian woman, and then she said, Om Higgs boson Adi Shivaya Namaha. She told me, how do you know that? Because you taught us. Because I want to be powerful like a boson, not like Hanuman or Ganesha. Boson is much more powerful, she said. So you have to find a way to create, bring together boson, not bozos, with religion. Unless we explain science in a scientific way, religion will not be accepted for the 21st century. So we have to tell them that the faith is science. It's a science. It is utter positivity. That's only psychology. Even in terms of modern physics, it is just a field of all possibilities. This is what the Maharishi would say. It's a field of all possibilities. We have to gain that consciousness, which can give you all options. So when you apply all these principles to the news media, are they doing this job? They are freezing the reality into a negative reality. Everybody is thinking that people who read it, they are waiting for end of April, where 190 people are going to die every day in California. Why can't all of us join together and then create positivity? And read, modern science, modern physics. Well, that's all I wanted to say for today. And then, but don't forget the mantra that I have taught: coronavirus, nashi mashi. Coronavirus, nashi mashi. Coronavirus, nashi mashi. God bless.
Dr. Pillai, thank you so much for speaking to all of us today. And we'd like to invite you, if you would, to please come back and speak to everybody again soon.
Sure, I will.
Thank you so much.
But again, I live in the moment, I'm saying now, don't tell me that I'm a liar, or that I said I would come back again and I did not come back. But I will.
Actually do have a scheduled
time.
webinar next Sunday.
Okay. All right.
Your words have great meaning for all of us, and we appreciate your time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Pillai. And I'd like to invite Gina and some of the other panelists to stay on the call, because I saw a lot of questions come in about how can we get phonemic intelligence, and also how we could get access to more of Dr. Pillai's resources. So I think, Gina, if you want to answer some of those questions, and if there are any other questions for our panelists, you can put in the chat box. I know it's late for you, Dr. Gautam, and Stacy, thank you so much for your time. We'll see. We'll go for another 10 minutes and see if we can answer your questions.
Great. So yeah, thank you so much, Sonia. So folks, Dr. Pillai talked a lot about how we should be coming together to shift this this collective consciousness that's out there right now, creating the fear, negativity that we're all feeling because we're psychic. So Pillai Center has put together several ways, weekly and daily, that we get together and be this revolution of positive thought, come together with our faith, positivity, and mantras in order to shift this negativity. So quickly, in the chat, there is a link to the all free support that Pillai Center is giving. First of all, Dr. Pillai has been putting out all of these videos and then an hour's worth of content today in order to unpack it into small bite-sized pieces that you can then use and understand more easily. Mohini, Dr. Pillai's student who's been around for 27 years or so, is on a daily basis taking those teachings and putting them into 5-minute audios. We're so excited that this is happening, and we have a playlist out there. They're being put on video. Please use these every day and share them with your friends. These are so important. She has broken down what the daily meditation should be, taking little pieces of his, because there's so much information in each of his talks, breaking that down into something we can just absorb in 5 minutes every day. So that's one aspect of what we can be doing to keep ourselves positive. Dr. Pillai gave a couple days ago a technique that you heard today, coronavirus nashi mashi. He said to do it 1,008 times, morning, midday, and evening. We have coordinated live watch parties on the Facebook groups that you can then attend. The timing and location of those watch parties, meaning different groups, is in the Dr. Pillai community Facebook group. And again, it's on this link that you'll get on the viewing page. Or you can search for Pillai Center group and you'll see it there. Then I will be doing, Dr. Pillai mentioned Stream Brzee as this mantra for positivity. It's for building up our inner strength at this time, creating more joy, happiness, positivity, and our outer. I mean, the economy is really taking a hit. A lot of us are feeling that. Stream Brzee can give us material abundance as well. So I have committed, starting tomorrow, Monday, to be doing a live stream on the Stream Brzee Instagram every day at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be chanting the mantra I'll be taking questions that you have, and we'll be giving tips every day, different ways to incorporate Streambersy into your daily practice. I believe, and Dr. Pillai is still listening to Streambersy 24/7 right now, which is what he recommended a lot of us do to really create an uplifting environment that we can live in instead of this news media fear-based collection of consciousness. Then we have a weekly prayer call, which is on every Sunday. We go through the elongated version of Dr. Pillai's meditation that he gave a week or so ago on the prana and calling in the Holy Spirit. As we'll do that, as well as the coronavirus Nashimashi as a group. Last week, I think there was 115 or so people on the group. That's great. If we can grow that, the more people we get together every Sunday to do these meditations and prayer calls, the more powerful this is all going to be. There's other live and free events happening. Just check out that page throughout the week for Pillai Center. What else do we have going on? I think that's all for the live things that we have. Next weekend, Dr. Pillai has agreed to join us on April 5th, where he will be talking about how to create divine support. He mentioned today the archetypes, he mentioned mantras. So next week we get to talk to him a little bit more about exactly how we're going to create divine support in our lives during this time of need. I mean, I feel like Dr. Pillai and Pillai Center has been like living for this moment now, where there's such a deep need for spiritual support, for protecting oneself from an opportunity to really springboard off of this to a higher state. We have that opportunity right now. It's like this window of time where the world is disrupted. And if we all come together, we can make a huge difference. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for all you being here.
A quick question for you. Where can people get phonemic intelligence information?
Yes, so on the Pillai Center website, we will be putting up a banner about phonemic intelligence. There are some plans that are in the works at the moment for creating a kids program. So there's a lot of kids at home right now, and parents are trying to figure out what to do with them. And Dr. Pillai talks about how phonemic intelligence will change your brain, will change your attitude, will change the way you can think and learn. And this is so important for children as well as their parents at the moment. So we're creating free opportunities to do that. And that will be posted on the PillaiCenter.com banner in just a few days. We'll have something up for you.
Oh, great. And then Stacy, just if you have any final comments or resources or things that you have for our audience, being there in San Francisco in the midst of one of the hot spots, if you could share your comments, please.
I think Gina really covered the Pillai Center offerings very well. Thank you for that, Gina. And I want to just reiterate the message from Dr. Pillai about positivity, about making sure that our mind and our bodies are filled with as many positive messages, the sounds, the deep sort of spiritual medicine, if you will, that his programs, the teachings, the mantras, the archetypes can infuse us with. I found it very profound, his comment that the negative media is really reinforcing a consciousness that then we all sort of are sucked into, and that really positive media is almost the hallmark of a healthy society. So while we may have a shortcoming of that in our actual media, all of us can be the counterpoint to that. So as we speak to our family, our friends, our communities, our workplace, to continue to hold that consciousness that Dr. Pillai has been talking about in the circles that we operate in, so that we become the spiritual medicine, and we sort of embody the spiritual potential that is here right now with the coronavirus, and the opportunity for us all to make a step change in consciousness and evolve humanity. So we really can be that change, but it takes a lot of effort, especially in light of and in face of the negative energies that are being held out there. So even more important for us all, so critical for us all to do our practice, to stay consistent, to reach out to one another and really lean on the community for that support and for that sort of positive reinforcement, especially in times where we may feel a little bit down or we're kind of wading through the difficulty, and to really make sure that as a community, we're coming together at this super critical time that has so much potential embedded in it.
That's so true. Yeah, thank you for that reminder. We all need to stay in positive community, and we just appreciate your time also in joining for this call. And Dr. Gautam, for your final comments, I just wanted you to also share, because you're in the front lines dealing with coronavirus in a general practitioner setting in Australia. You said you had started to become very fearful yourself, and then you watched Dr. Pillai's video. Can you share more on that and what happened?
Yeah, sure. I was closely watching what's happening in the United States for the last 10 days, very closely. So here in Australia, at least, it's not that bad. It's giving all the media, I was really fearful, like, you go because we're not testing every patient. So anyone could be a carrier, and my main concern was, of course, I could be getting infected, and also I would seeing many patients, a lot of young babies, 2 weeks, 3 weeks old, and pregnant women. I don't want them to pass it on to them. So that created a lot of fear. Thinking, how could I go to work today? So fortunately, I think Dr. Pillai had a video where how to combat coronavirus with spiritual techniques. So I just watched that. Incidentally, after watching that, all my fear went away miraculously. And then from next day, I was really more vibrating with more positive thoughts. So it didn't affect me from that time onwards. So that was a very practical experience for sure.
I love that story. Very inspiring. And I know being on the front lines with all of our emergency personnel and medical community, we value.
Yeah, I also had to add on. And when I was talking to my colleagues, I was saying, fear of death is the most highest fear. We have to overcome that, conquer that, and then you just pass it on to other people. Though it's hard to understand or hard to comprehend what that really is, but at least the vibration it sends creates a positive environment, and it really plays a big role.
Thank you so much. Are there any other comments or additions for the people who are watching on this call?
Yeah, I'm just going to take a quick look at our chats. If anyone has questions, you can post them now. There's some reiteration. So someone's asking about courses and programs. Many of you know that Dr. Pillai started with Science of Miracles, and he just mentioned that how we have to really combine science and have faith in there. Science of Miracles is a program that he started promoted a couple weeks ago. That'll start at the April 19th, and there's still time to join that. We have, in addition to all these free things, we also have Ascension to Bliss, which is having that course gives protection for mind, body, spirit as well, and that is happening now. There's live sessions that are going on for that program, and some folks are also asking about protection mechanisms. So the veil, which is also in this course, is a very powerful instrument and symbol. Dr. Pillai used it in one of his more recent videos, and so you can carry one of those as another way to kind of create some more protection. And then next week we'll be talking about another program that's going to be released that we think will help a lot of you too. And we'll talk more about that on next Sunday. But so folks were just asking, like, what do we do? They're at home. What kind of courses to take? Ascension to Bliss is probably the best one right now. It's pretty affordable, and it has live ongoing calls. My other favorite is City Powers, which if you have a lot of time on your hands at the moment, which you might, it's a really in-depth course, and it's so incredible. And Dr. Pillai talked about Patanjali today. It takes you through the 4 levels of concentration of Patanjali. It's really one of these stellar things, one of the most stellar things Dr. Pillai has put out. So folks.
And then Gina, I sadly saw a few comments come in about people who've been impacted by the coronavirus economics and have lost their job in India, in the US, and they're struggling financially now. And there's a lot of fear over when can I get work again. Yes. Your Shrim Bruzi course is starting up soon, is that right?
Yeah, so we'll be Dr. Pillai has agreed, hopefully, you never know in the moment, so hopefully he'll still agree, to be creating some new techniques for Brzee and or stream Brzee, in which we'll be releasing, we'll be letting you know more about that towards in about a month. And then in May, we'll be starting a new stream Brzee or Brzee course. In the meantime, please join me for the free daily check-ins on Facebook, or sorry, it's on Instagram Live on the Stream Brzee channel. If you aren't familiar with that one, it's called Stream Brzee Official. But yeah, we will be having a new Stream Brzee or Brzee technique out soon from Dr. Pillai, so we're really excited about that. So there are a few things coming up that so right now, can continue to take part of all of the free offerings that we have. If you're wanting some more support, there is the Stream Brzee Collective, which is an ongoing membership, which has 5 live meetings per week, plus a Fire Lab, which is a very affordable price point. And then there's the Ascension to Bliss program, which is going from now until the April 12th. And then the Science of Miracles, which is starting on April 19th, Dr. Pillai's premier year-long. It's like if you are really wanting to just dive right into Dr. Pillai's most impactful, most recent teachings, this is the place to be. In fact, one of the levels of this course even has a live one-on-one conversation with Dr. Pillai, just you and him, and your birth chart, so he can see all about you. And then in a week or so, we'll be offering another kind of based on last year's mystery school teachings. We'll be releasing that in about a week, and that's going to be a lot more affordable, but still with this very high teachings that you can take part in. So in addition to all the free support we have out there, we do have some paid programs if you're interested in really diving in and getting some additional attention and new teachings from Dr. Pillai.
Thank you so much. And I know it's really hard for all of us to keep that positive space. So when you have no job, you've lost your job, everything seems to be very negative and dire. What Dr. Pillai said is most important. Our positivity, our ability to create, we are the form of God. You cannot go to that negative place. You have to remain positive and keep manifesting what you want to see in the world. So on that note, if there's any other additions from our panelists, and thank you so much for everyone for joining on your busy schedules for this call. And we'd love to have everyone back on Dr. Pillai's next call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. Thank you, everyone. We're so grateful to Baba and this community. So folks, continue to be out there and be positive.
Yeah, and send in your questions and comments as well. We always have a whole team wanting to read what you do, and we do try to escalate most of those to Dr. Pillai in some manner. So we hear you, and we are out there with you. We know many of you who are on the call personally. So please, let's stay in contact, and we'll be in unity, and we will push back the negativity, at least within our community, if not the world, on this coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah.